excuse me. So as I do these quick demos, it's just to get them inside your hand so we can actually get moving and off this corner. So first thing we're going to be working with is thermal imaging. So we're going to be obviously looking for cold spots in this. You guys should be able to see me in there, the red, orange, and yellow guy. That means I'm the warmest thing inside the picture. Sorry, fellas. I'm also the hottest thing inside the picture. So we're looking for those blue and black spots to move on their own. I will tell you, 3 nights ago now, probably one of the most compelling pieces of evidence I caught with this camera was caught on the tour. I get about 4 or 5 solid pieces out of this guy every year. So that would have been my first one for the year, and it was literally a blue person walking across a parking lot when I was in view. What does that mean for you? They should have been that color. Like, that's what that means. So when they're blue and I'm orange, it's somebody that's not supposed to be there. So that's literally what we're working for. There's also a blue dot bouncing around the screen. I had this set up so that way the blue dot will help you find the coldest spot in the frame at that particular moment. So what's that? It's going to help direct your eye, basically. So the person using this is also going to have a cheat sheet. There's a little bar on the right-hand side. That does not show up in your video. You will get this full video back. But Bryson, as he's using this, he's going to be filming, and I'm going to give him some starts and stops. So those starts and stops are because the hardware is great, the software sucks. If we record for too long, we lose all footage. So again, I'll give you the starts and stop for this, but Bryson, you're going to hold this horizontal just like this, with the camera's going to be on your left-hand side. Even when I tell you to stop the video and relax a little bit, when you restart it, make sure it's in this position, because I splice all of those videos together, and then you guys have one video to watch. Now, if we get some upside down video, I got to give out your phone number. It's never fun. They got to blame you, not me. So that was a joke.
I hold it facing like this, right? With the outside facing outwards.
Yes, that way you can watch it.
Yeah, I was just double checking.
Yeah, you got it. All right, so let's break out both cameras so that way we're kind of on the same wavelength. So this camera works in a completely different manner. Obviously, it's a GoPro attached to this crazy contraption that I have going on here. So you guys should not be able to see me in that very small, dark screen.
No.
So kind of quick demo. Let's turn on some lights. You should be able to see me in a purplish hue at this point.
Yes.
Okay, we're working with IR lighting. There's light emitting from this camera that we cannot see with our own eyes. The hope here is that we're going to be able to capture something we wouldn't normally be able to see with our own eyes. We're also going to be using lasers with this particular camera, just because the lasers will actually capture any kind of motion going through them. So, Michael, I think I'm going to go with you on this one. Did I get the name right?
Yes.
Look at me go. We're not recording yet for you, just because the files are giant. I will give you the cues for that, and I like to stop here and why I have both cameras out at the same time. It's very busy tonight. People do not like their cars to be filmed, and they do not like to be filmed themselves. If I say act casual, Michael, you're simply going to hold your camera down and point it at the ground. And then Bryson, you're not going to be a YouTuber. You're going to just lower it and keep filming, but more at a stomach level, and that way it's spaced out.
All right.
Fair enough?
Like that.
You got it. Perfect. Yours is much easier to hide. Let's see. Let's break these out just because we already have the camera. Camera's going. So, first off, this one's the neuralizer from Men in Black. None of you are going to remember anything by the time we're done. First set of lasers. So, like I said, we're looking for motion. So Michael's camera can actually see these lasers really bright because he's working with different types of lighting. The hope here is that we're going to capture something moving through it, because that's the only way you can see the lasers from the pen to the ground. So, Michael, when you're shooting through this, like you're filming it, you want to go at an angle going directly this way, because if you just point it down, obviously we know what the green dots look like. We're looking for something to go through right here. We're going to be using 2 different styles of lasers here. Now, the second one gives us red squares. In the event we capture something here, I can take the still from the camera, put it in 3D software, and give you a full 3D view of what we have, along with measurements. So, again, I haven't had anything where the 3D software will pick up yet, but I do have some anomalies that are unexplainable. So hopefully tonight will be our first night. Mina Grace.
Yes.
Look like you two are kind of tied at the hip, so the two of you are going to be working together. So, lasers stay on the ground, always. These get Nick in a lot of trouble. So make sure it stays on the ground, no more than 3 feet in front of you. And the same thing with this guy. Now this one has a toggle switch, so when it's on, you have to watch where you point it because you don't have to hold it on. The pen has a button you have to hold on in order for it to work.
Okay.
Just so you know how those operate. And it's not an on all the time. I will always give you the cues of when it's safe to use lasers.
Okay.
spirit boxes. Let's get into that mess.
That's you.
Grab the right one. So we're going to be using several different spirit boxes tonight. Let's see. This one is going to sweep through the FM radio stations at a very fast rate. So the cool thing about this one is it's kind of like the white noise you guys hear on TV, and then they tell you what they think they heard in the middle of that stuff. We're going to be doing this a little bit differently. These are slowed down. With all the history I'm going to give you tonight and listening to white noise all night long, somebody's going to fall asleep. So I slowed them down on purpose. The other method you can use with this is to listen for the DJs and the song lyrics and the commercials. If you can make out any of those things that those DJs and song lyrics are saying, it's a 50-50 shot. We can tie it to the location, a person, or something going on with one of us. Now, the two people that are going to have these are going to have earbuds. So they're going to be the only people to hear them in real time. This one in my hand with the little red clip is going to record the entire session, no outside noise. So I'm going to spot check this recording tomorrow morning and give you 15 to 20 more markers of things that I heard while I was spot checking it. And if it's relevant, that's where I give you the link to verify the information. And I'm also keep a little notebook on me so that way I can write down what everybody hears in real time as well. So that's also going to be in your notes. Again, I try to get as much data back to you as I possibly can. So, does anybody think they might be would struggle with a device like this before I signed it out?
Yeah, I don't want that device.
Okay. It is not an easy job. So I would just put that out there. I think this is going to go to you.
Okay.
So, you're going to have to untie the earbuds. I do not want them back. Earwax is gross. It's already recording. And the only thing you have to worry about is the volume. It's a wheel right here. You'll control the volume for yourself. Don't worry about messing with the recording because it records at one even level.
Okay.
So, let's see how we can get that guy going.
So, do I have to keep both earbuds in?
Now, usually people only have one, so that way they can listen to me as well.
Okay, good.
So this next one works a lot differently. So this is going to give us a word from time to time in the center of the screen. So it's going to save all of those words into a list. Last night's tour was really, really light as far as the list. They only had 53 terms. I normally get about 70 to 85. 80% of what comes out of this phone app doesn't mean anything. There's over 9,100 terms in here. The game we're going to be playing with this guy, is it coming from a ghost? Or is it coming from the motorcycle? It's not even Friday yet.
Yeah, but it's St. Patrick's Day, so...
Pretty much Friday.
Yeah.
So, again, you guys are going to get the full list back. Only usually like 5 to 10 to 15 terms out of this are going to actually make any sense to me as I kind of go through it. And of course, this is and it says the word consistent. Look at that, we're talking about numbers. Again, kind of a stretch and a reach, but you guys see where I'm going with this. We're going to be looking for very specific instances for me to be able to tie it to one of those three things. Cindy, this one's going to go to you.
Sure. So I just carry it around.
I don't want to see every single word that pops up. I will come to you when I want to see the list. That's where you hit the little white button right there, and you'll be able to scroll through it, obviously, when you have more, and just hit that top right. Otherwise, we'll be out here for 4 hours as you're trying to show me every single word.
That's the other spirit box, right?
Nope. So, EMF meters. Let's get into these real quick. Just I'm trying to balance everything out with this. You get 4, 2, and 2, and not having full 10 people here. So EMF meters are basically going to measure electromagnetic fields, right? So you guys have seen these on TV. These are pretty simple. They use these on purpose because they're super sensitive, and they only go up to 25 milligauss. So this is kind of the first thing I use to debunk what's actually happening around us. So again, I have all these colors memorized of what the milligauss readings are, but when this thing actually goes off, let me know. I know, I didn't look at you that whole time. See how you were surprised?
Wow.
So again, you don't have to do anything. Just wait for it to blinky blink. So when it does, I'll kind of debunk it first. If something else is going on, then we'll see what else is actually happening. This one works a lot differently. This one has the same type of thing. Rob, this one's going to go to you on purpose just because of what Bryson has. So the top numbers, anything above 2.5 is first, second green dot. So anything above that number, I kind of want to know what's going on. Okay. The bottom number is ambient temperature. Bryson has something on the camera. You and I can debunk it pretty quickly based on what's happening around us.
All right.
The last thing it has is it has a motion sensor built into it. So a motion sensor, if anything gets close to that antenna, it will go off. The closer something gets to you, the higher it's going to go. Obviously, we have a different array of colors in there too. We'll talk about that more at our first stop. I'm going to shut it off for now. Just focus on how those numbers move around for you.
Okay.
Let's see, what else do we have in the bag? I'm like Santa Claus over here. Who do I have left? Patrick?
Yeah, right here.
You're going to use the brand new device. I just got this in a few days ago. So this is another spirit box, but there's no like earbud for it. So like how they're going to be listening to the white noise out of that one particular spirit box, this one is supposed to take out the white noise, so only voices will come through.
Okay.
We had a little bit of luck with it last night, so it's a matter of we're still experimenting with it. So as you can see already, it's already giving us just noises, and that's what you're going to hear throughout the night. Are mainly just little shuffling noises like that. But we did have some very clear terms come in. Sorry, it's hard to see this thing in the middle of the night. There's a lot different in my living room this morning.
Some light.
Yeah, I'm good. I got it. We're all good. So we have. You guys see where I got that from? Like it automatically said we have. So I don't know where it came from, but any kind of phrase that you hear, I kind of want to know what comes out of it. Okay. The only thing I'll ask of you is I'll say, let's put that on mute so that way I can go over the history and not be distracted. There's a mute button on the right-hand side, right where my finger is. Okay. You just tap it to mute it. And then, of course, tap it again to unmute it. Okay. Everybody geared up?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is it alright if I swap with you? I have a really shaky hand. I feel like I'll just get bad footage.
As long as you guys keep it within your parties at this point.
Are you alright?
If you want me to, yes.
Do you tell me how it works real quick?
It's just when it gets above 2.5, you want to let him know. And
Right.
if this is the temperature of the ambient, he's going to
So
share
I'm
the
supposed to
proximity
make you
thing
aware
later.
if I hear anything on
That's
here.
if it's,
Other than those quick
don't worry
little
about the
shuffling
antenna yet.
noises.
He's going to stick
It'll be
this up
interesting
in the
if
wall
the two
and
of
get
your
close
spirit
to it.
boxes actually start to match up with the
Goes
things
off.
you're hearing versus what you're
Alright,
seeing.
thanks. Sorry, I just have
So, and I'm going to look at that once we get out of this area.
Wait, can you raise the volume?
Still.
Yes, it's the wheel right here next to the button.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
So you'll tell me when to mute this, right?
Yep, I'm going to give you guys cues for everything, especially like with the video cameras and yours unmuting. And then, of course, Bryson now has the millimeter, so I'll have to show him when he can use that remote. All right, let's talk about why we started here. I told you guys we're going to have questions. Everybody does. And it's not always the same questions, which is quite interesting.
Wait, before you do, this really started to come alive. Is there a reason for that?
It's all part of the aesthetic of the app. This app makes noises and growls at you and does all kinds of mess. I just pay attention to the word list. The reason why I like the word list so much, let me show you. It gives me timestamps. So that kind of gives me, if I have something relevant on your list, it's the first thing I look at. I know when to watch the video. I know when to listen to everything else. It's the first thing because it's a quick visual for me. So
everything here is times.
What is that collective? Like, what are the words based off of?
the words, it's saying that it's listening to the radio stations the same way Elena is. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Same way. However, it has 9,100 terms in there. Those little boxes you guys see on TV only have just over 2,000. This has almost 5 times that much. So again, it's a matter of like, are the words so specific that they actually belong to the location of where we belong, or is it just some random vague word that it's trying to scare us with? So,
I think I accidentally started recording. Is that okay?
no, I wanted it to record.
Oh. Then why'd you?
I said you should not record.
Yeah, I wanted it to record so everybody knew how to watch that blue dot. I always start the recording at the very beginning.
Okay, so you don't fill up the memory or anything like this?
Oh no, I'm not worried about
this. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the volume's up on this as much as it needs to go at this point?
At this point, yeah. Okay. So when you unmute it, it's loud enough to where we're not going to spook any horses because we're going to walk by some places.
Okay.
I'm just ready. You gave the ADD person the simple job. Hold this.
Yes, there you go. So, Big John's behind me. There's a reason why we start here. This was owned by a football player named Big John Kennedy. He played for the 1947 New York Giants. This was his bar. He sat in the back, and he used to tell the bartender if the cadets coming over from the Citadel, if they were old enough to drink. One night, 2 guys come in. They're not old enough to drink. He has the bartender throw them out. They come back the next night, and they try to steal the cash register from the front of the bar. John sees what's going on, gets up from his drink, and just beats these guys to a pulp. Like, beats them up, and a couple of gunshots go off. John gets grazed in the neck, and the bullet lands in the wall. John gets up after being shot, goes back to the bar, tells the bartender to get him another beer, get the two guys on the floor in ambulance. So, here's the irony of the story. Nobody died in that story. They say the people that sit in the front of this bar where that bullet hole allegedly still is, even if it isn't, after the renovations from the Big Johns we now know, John's blood is in the building. The people that sit in the front can have headaches, nauseousness, dizziness. These things can and will happen. It's a big deal for, this is your heated warning, so you guys need to let me know if you feel any of those type of symptoms so we can move the whole group and get that person to safety. It's a very, very big deal. We're going to talk about people passing out throughout my tours as we kind of go throughout the tour, because some of that stuff's actually relevant to the story. So, by the way, if there's a skeptic among you, I don't want to know who it is. The reason why I say that is, let's say Cindy's my skeptic and she's in front of me. I'm going to focus on Cindy all night long, and it's just going to break my mindset.
Right.
I'm going to want to prove to her that the paranormal is real. So hang on to your skepticism. We're all here to have fun, and I'll probably call you out by the end of the night anyway.
Hey, I lived in a haunted house, so I believe.
We live in one too.
No,
You looked at what?
I lived in a haunted house for
Oh.
about 3 years.
Like what general area? Like.
It was in San Anselmo, California.
Which is north of San Francisco.
Residence. I don't want to take away from this.
No, you're good, you're good. So, all right. So, let's not talk about our own health. Big earthquake here in 1886. If you didn't already know that from another Charleston history tour, you do now. Every tour talks about it. The mantle you see in the middle of the building, a piece of it broke off the front of the building, hit somebody in the back of the head, and killed them. You see his ghost in the middle of East State Street. You see the white mantle in the middle of the building?
Oh, right.
A piece of it broke off from the earthquake and hit somebody in the back of the head and killed them. And they say you can see his ghost in the middle of East Bay Street. I say apparently and allegedly a lot with that because I don't have any proof. It's just a great segue so nobody's thinking about getting sick on the tour. So, all right, YouTuber guy.
I'm sorry, nobody's watching me.
You guys ready to go ghost hunting?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go this way.
Yeah, you gotta see your emotion kind of get.
Right, so now that we're a little bit away from you boys, any,
Oh yeah.
you had about 10 to 15, looks like it went away. So,
Should I put the antenna up?
not yet. Again, we're going to discuss all of
You
this.
didn't tell me your name.
Nick,
Nick.
thought everybody knew my name. I'm sorry, my bad. You tell me. There's nothing underneath us to make it go off. We're not close enough to the building for it to be considered anything coming from the wiring inside.
Once you leave them on the house,
Oh, now it's really going.
we have to be kind of teamed up.
So
on this
you're
because
getting 20 to 25, like you're at your max readings at this point. I'll be writing those down as we move on to the next phase. So let's talk about why we're here. Your entire time with me should be thought of as kind of a ghost hunting 101 folks, right? Obviously you're already getting the gist of that with these devices. Michael, you are too quiet, man. I gotta get you talking. So this is the big red barn line. We're not gonna spend a lot of time here. This is just so I can show you guys more tactics with your devices and we'll move on to much deeper history than ponies and football players. So the history here is really simple. This is the same red barn lot where we kept horses that delivered milk and eggs to the residents of Charleston. So let's talk about those spirit boxes. We have how many in play tonight? So we got 3 total? Yeah? Okay, so I have 5, so I have to like stop and count how many I passed out. So spirit boxes, this is not television. This is not, is somebody here? Like everybody wants to ask. That's usually everybody's first question. If somebody answers no, that means somebody's here. So we're not going to ask yes and no questions all night long. You don't get paranormal proof out of yes and no questions. So we're going after those specific things. In a space like this, I would normally have you guys, there's too many cars in here. Again, we're going to stay right here until we move to the next spot. But I would spread you guys out and say, ask questions that you already know the answers to. Like, what color is the big red barn? Obviously, we're looking and listening for the color red on the various spirit boxes. They don't stay in the same spot. ever. Now, as far as the two that are actually making noise where you're listening to them, those song lyrics, DJs, and commercials, the word red might not be available to you, even on the word list. So what color is the big red barn? The words fire truck, blood, heart, cardinal, those things are specifically red. I would take that as an acceptable answer. What color is the big red barn? Blood. That's cool. However, most of the night, I'm going to require 2 actual happenings, including EMF readings, to be able to kind of verify what's actually going on around us. So, for example, Cindy has the word art on her word list, and Elena hears the number 40 come through on her spirit box. Art Faircloth was number 40 on Big John's team. You guys see where I have to kind of verify what's going on there? A lot of these stories tonight are going to have multiple people with the same name. Charleses, Elijahs, Georges. We're talking 17 and 1800s here. So again, we need to know who the heck we're talking to. So hopefully you get the gist of how to listen to those spirit boxes.
How does he know if his is muted or not?
Because he doesn't hear anything. So
Yeah, but he might have muted it.
I didn't touch it.
I muted it.
Yeah,
Oh, you muted it.
I did, so that way I wasn't being interrupted
Okay.
the whole time. Let's talk about these cameras, and then we will move on to the next space. So again, both cameramen, I want you to be very cautious of other people, you know, that kind of thing. If I say casual, you're going to drop your cameras. Let's start with thermal imaging first. You're going to try to do 2 things for me throughout the night, not necessarily for me, for the whole group. You're going to try to keep a person in view. We're going to be the warmest things out here. So that's going to give us that array of color on the screen. It's going to be much easier to spot those cold spots if there's an array of color instead of just one temperature like a wall. So again, try to keep somebody in view. And if somebody's over 101 degrees, let me know. I'll boot them off the tour so they can go feel better later. Okay. So the other thing you're going to try to do is you're going to try to keep the sky out of view. That blue dot is going to automatically default to the sky if it's in view.
Got it.
Because there's no surface there. It doesn't know what to measure. So some of these spaces, if that's going to be impossible to do, do your best.
Okay.
Mike, he's like, I'm ready. Look at me go. All right, so your camera, go ahead and point one of your lasers down for me. So your camera, perfect. 2 to 5 feet away, and you're literally going to move as slow as you guys can, both of you, so that way we have a nice slow, video feed to watch. And again, we're looking for something here. So when something does happen here, obviously we have something going on. I'll take that still and see what we have going on. You can use them in tandem if you want to. The only thing that I suggest is you don't cross the streams, because otherwise you're just creating one giant grid instead of a vast grid. Does that make sense? So again, as slow as you can possibly make them go, and those lasers will set up parallels, no pressure at all.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yes.
She's the wrong person
I
for
don't
that.
like to run with 8 people. It's not fun. You'll be just fine. I'm like a bad dad with those lasers. I'm constantly looking to see where the lasers are at. So as we kind of move through this space, I want Lena, you to turn your volume up so you can listen to your spirit box if you're not already there. Go ahead and click that little button on the right-hand side for yours so that way we can see what noise comes out of there along the way. And give us the last 4 or 5 terms that showed up on your list before we move on. We'll see if anything's relevant.
Mod, contract, rank, reach.
Nothing.
Lark, key, answer them,
No.
elect, consistent, and gasp. So that's what we've got so far.
Nothing at all. Again, see why 80% of that doesn't mean anything? Again, I'm not here to make stuff up for you guys. I'm actually here trying to find things, just like you guys are hoping to find something. All right. So,
Question: Is
yes.
it normal for like drastic changes in the number here?
In the temperature or the so just like we had ANITA, like I had it. Just try to be. ANITA's was going all the way up to 20, and then it dropped down to nothing. So again,
all right, because I've been seeing like drastic things, like
what?
From 0 to 2.5 really quick.
Okay, and then it went away really quick too,
Yeah.
didn't it? So what I'm looking for out of yours and both of yours really is a pattern. So if you have it going like in a little blip, that's probably from something man-made. So if it's in a rhythm, it's again, it's a pulse. A cell phone will give off a pulse. Same thing with yours. So it would be like 2.5, 3.5, 2.5, 3.5. Those are the kinds of things I'm looking for, not 2.5 to 0. So again, those are little blips. So you've had a 2.5 so far, and we've obviously had yours
I've
maxed
had
out
much
at 25.
higher. I was just making.
Yeah, and hopefully we will get much higher than this space. All right, let's go ghost hunting and learn something else besides ponies and football players.
So Nick,
Yep.
I'm still a little fixed on people brought ghosts with them. No.
Where should they go? 8 to 10.
I watched it go to 4.
Get down quick. Anytime you're around power lines, it will it'll go up. How's it going?
Oh wow. 4.2 back down to 0 real quick. It's probably
It'll go up around electrical equipment.
Yeah.
Transformers, cabling like this. It's not insulated too well, it'll definitely go off.
Alright. Welcome to another beautiful space of Charleston. It's another parking lot. Yay, you. So, if you guys don't know where to park by the time you're done with me, I don't know how else I can help you. So, let's talk about this space. Watch your night vision. That's the bottom switch on the top light. There you go. The reason why we leave that off is it just draws attention from the other tours, and they like to harass you guys, like, what's he got you doing now? Like, that's the kind of thing. It's a very cutthroat business. I'll just put it out there. That's why we use the light they can't see. So, and again, it's very easy to swipe it against your camera.
Yeah, that's gonna hit the light.
I was like, who's got the green light? Those aren't dots, so they weren't lasers. So let's talk about why we're here. This space used to be the Charles and Eliza Pinckney Mansion site. So their mansion actually sat in the front of this space, facing East Bay Street. Eliza's garden came from basically behind the Phi Church, and came all the way across. And then over here, we're standing in the servant and slave quarters for the home. Spirit boxes, I am not going to be giving you questions like what color is George Washington's white horse, like what we did over there with the red barn. You're going to get the answers from your spirit boxes. So, who the heck were these people? Charles and Eliza had a son named Charles. They had a nephew named Charles. That's 3 Charleses. The son and the nephew were signers of the Constitution for South Carolina. Big deal for us, but you guys are all on vacation, and I don't like politics either. If I don't mention it, it usually pops up almost in an angry way, like, you forgot to talk about us. So it just happens all the time. So I just do it every night. But anyway, so Eliza married Charles at a young age. I'm not going to tell you how old she was, but I will tell you it was young according to today's standards, not the colonial times that she came from. You're not looking for numbers like 12 and 14. So the reason I bring this up is because Charles was over double her age when they married. So it's a pretty big age gap between the two of them. Sounds kind of gross, but it's not so bad when I reveal the answers. Anyway, when they got married, it was because her father over in England thought he was dying. He wanted to see all of his kids one last time. She didn't think he was dying, so instead she got married. This is 1744. There's no such thing as a green card or citizenship or anything like that, so she did marry him out of love. Even after his death, because remember, he's over double her age, she remained a widow. So this is a true love story. Now, what happens with that is Dad gets better. Eliza was correct. Dad starts sending Eliza gifts, apologetically, to this space. One of those gifts happened to be the plant indigo. Indigo is a plant that makes blue dye that makes our blue jeans blue. Some of us are wearing it tonight. Now, you've been in town for at least an hour that I know of. You've seen the word indigo somewhere. Now you know why it's so prominent here. But anyway, she didn't know how to keep it going in our obviously weird temperatures. It's not always hot here. So she had to learn from the slaves how to keep it going. Then once she experimented with it for a while, she moved it to a plantation in Mount Pleasant, calls her dad and says, I need some contacts to be able to sell this stuff because the rice plantations are going downhill. I'm sure you guys have been somewhere where they talked about rice plantations, right? So now we have an international businesswoman in the middle of colonial times. Welcome to Women's History Month, everybody. So that's Eliza's business. Let's get into the weird stuff, because that's why you guys are all here, right? Eliza was the second wife named Eliza from Charles, back to back. Really smart or really stupid, depending on how you look at it. Both Elizas, ironically, have a maiden name that starts with the letter L. If you want to know which Eliza we're dealing with, ask her maiden name. You can ask what happened to the mansion. It's obviously not here anymore. Then you can ask when that tragedy happened. So I'll give you the clue that yes, it was a tragedy. Eliza's children, please tread lightly. I already told you there's at least one named Charles. There are more. You can ask how many and basically what their names are. Anything more than that, we're poking the bear. There's a tragedy among one of those children that she does not want us to talk about in depth. We will anyway before we leave. It's not like she doesn't know I do it. She just doesn't want to mention those things to us. So I will let you know what happened with that tragedy before we go. So again, names and how many. Leave it alone. As far as Eliza's death, that's where she's pretty open. Ask her how old she was when she died. What did she die from? Where is she buried? What president was a pallbearer at her funeral? Like, these are pretty big questions. Notice all of them are non-yes and no questions. We get a lot of crazy spikes on the EMF readers here. We are going to record. So on the top of like where the camera is, there's a red light. You'll see the button. Yeah, you have to press it pretty hard, even if you have to grab the whole camera. You can go ahead and start recording now. Again, Hannah Grace, be careful with the vehicles in here. And again, if I say ask casual, there's only one way in and out of here for vehicles. It's through where we just came in. So if I say let's watch out for cars and let them park, cameras, you're definitely going to go in the opposite direction. And again, some people, most of these cars belong to employees of people that work down here. They just take their break in their cars, so we don't go in between cars at all. So let's find out what happens. We're going to be looking for spikes. I need to work with Bryson for a moment to show him how to use that REM pod. So definitely turn those spirit boxes up, ask some questions. Let's see what we can get out of this place. We're going to spend a good 10 minutes here. Do you have anything before we separate?
Survival. Is that a good word?
It is. I want to see survival of what?
Veteran, study, mean, house, giant, Islam, leg.
Hang on, I want to stop you there. We got a couple of things going on. First off, I want everybody to kind of remember, we just talked about Big John's, right?
Yes.
That's a block away. Sometimes things bleed over a little bit. What team did he play for?
The Giants.
The Giants. So I'll be looking for either New York or 1947 to tie that up. Leg is relevant here. I will tell you why if we get more clues about it.
Okay. It's about 6 minutes ago when that came.
About when we walked in. Very interesting. Have you heard anything, or were you listening to me?
I've also been listening to you.
Okay. All right. And I haven't heard anything jump out of that thing yet either. Again, it's going to be noises. So, and what we heard last night was clear as day. It said David. It was at a very, very last stop. It was very weird. And the funny thing is that was the second night that we had used that, so this makes it the third. The first night I used it, it also said David in the exact same space, and I can't find a tie of who the hell David is. So, and it was, both of them were clear as day. We have it on the audio for the thermal imaging camera for both nights. I was like, okay. Who knows?
Maybe he's one of the children.
Here? Well, you don't know that story yet.
Yeah, I don't.
That was at the last location. So again, cameras, we're going to act casual as somebody's walking by. So Rob, we want to act a little casual, and we don't want this lady thinking we're filming her.
Oh, yeah.
She's got a crazy hat on.
Yeah.
So at that rate, let's kind of spread out a little bit and let's have some fun. I'll be bouncing around with all of you and writing down whatever we hear. Yours I don't have to write down because it's being written down for me. But yeah, let's spread out. And Anita, they should be following you because you know where the hot spots are. Yeah. See, your job is super important. You're the leader of the group. What do I do? All right. So first off, did you have a question before?
Is there anything that, like, even when I haven't asked prompting questions, I should be on the lookout for?
Again, anything you hear specifically, I want to know what it is, no matter how silly you think it might be. Because sometimes there might be a word in that phrase that is actually relevant to the location. So that way I can kind of see what's going on and see if there are any clues we're tying together. Now the word list that Cindy has, like, it's already giving me some things of what to expect, but I don't want to reveal that yet. Just so that you have a genuine experience and I'm not putting seeds in your brain.
Okay.
Fair enough?
All right.
That's great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So you over there had a reading. Go ahead and pull up the antenna first. It was 2.5.
Well, went to 22 because you're touching it, right? Probably.
Oh, he's fine. It's not turned on yet. But you always want to pull the antenna out
What
first.
I mean is he just set up a spike of 22 on that EMF when he touched it.
22, you said?
Yes.
Well, again, that's not relevant because there are two different types of EMF fields. We're about to create an EMF field around this antenna, and if it was being measured here, obviously that's irrelevant because it's going to give us spikes all over the place. So the two work independently. But if you already seen a 22, like, that's
yeah,
good
we
stuff.
just did as soon as you started moving it up. It went.
Very interesting. And you're not wearing
You
a
meant
smartwatch or anything.
2.2?
No, I'm pretty sure it's 22.0. I thought I saw.
That's why I write everything down. So we'll see.
Could've
Now,
been
last
22.
night, I'm not going to lie, we had a spike of 188 in here. That is like dangerous levels.
No, it's
Like-
not. Feel it.
Yeah. Like, I kept
You're
checking on
standing
that
near
young
the power
girl.
lines or something.
She was actually standing over by where that
Where is-
32 is, like a little bit further in, probably
Yeah.
about 8 feet. But yeah, 188.
We just stay within the parking lot here, right?
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Okay.
Just don't go in between cars. Flip the device around. There's a little flap on the back, so you want to lift it up. It's really loose. It will fall back down on you, just so you know. The two little white buttons, you want the one closer to the edge. That'll turn on the REM pod.
So I just press it up?
You press it in.
Oh, it's a button.
Yeah, you're going to have to... Alright, so now that you have it turned on,
There we go. All right.
your motions are also going to make it go off. So as we're walking around, just like that, it's going to go off. Looks like you're right-handed, perfect. On the side here, there are 4 buttons. Your thumb should be at the very bottom button. So every time it goes off, you want to click that bottom button to reset the field and stop moving to make sure if it goes back to the same color. That way you actually can verify it with something actually going on versus your motion.
All right.
So, now you're one of the reasons I didn't give this to you initially was because I seen you move around.
That's because
He
my
likes
legs
to
hurt.
move.
Yeah, lots of energy out of you. So it's going to go off a lot. Like you should constantly be clicking that button, constantly, just to kind of
Clear it.
yeah, make sure it's not you. And it's already like just from you,
Just you standing
shuffling.
around.
Yep.
My legs hurt. I'm trying to stop them from hurting.
Gotcha. Well, again,
But I have a shakier hand than I do.
in this
more
space,
energetic body.
last night was the highest spike that I've ever seen in here. Before that was 148. But we do get some pretty decent spikes, like what you saw was the 22.
I thought it was 22.
Well,
Maybe down
I'm not
myself.
surprised if that tells you anything. So again, let me start following with everybody else. If that turns
Okay.
into too much of a task, I'll get you a spirit box.
Yeah,
and
I don't mind doubling up. I mean, this is easy. I'm holding
Yeah.
it, pointing it.
right. Well, if anything, I would take that and keep it in my pocket and
Ah,
give him a spirit box. And that way I can double check on things. But that's okay. Let's see how you do with it first.
Just-
Let's walk over here.
No, he said over here. Over this way. I can get you in the frame. Not get you in the frame. YouTubing. It's YouTubing. Nobody pay attention to me. You picking up any spikes? Let me know. Work your way back over toward them, and we'll see if we can combine it with her sensor. So she's got one that you clear it every time, don't you? Sort of you get in frame.
Oh wow. Okay, that's 17.4.
17.4.
Yeah. It's a really big spike.
She does hang out here. But this, I'm not surprised in this location. Like they're thinking this. So yeah, that's part of the reason why we come here. Now I've come here on certain nights. This thing does nothing.
Really?
2.5 or whatever it's supposed to be.
Elena next to you then. Is that way? Have you heard anything yet?
I've heard a couple things.
What?
One of the clearest phrases I heard was if
She did 100. Don't reset it. Let's show him.
It won't reset.
And I've heard, I think, 1440.
Resetting is for this.
Okay.
So I want you to think about something for a second. So, for example, your spirit boxes are slowed down. Over there, I asked you a question: what color is the big red bomb? Sometimes you'll hear Rudolph the Nose Reindeer. We only need red. I don't need Rudolph the Nose Reindeer. And in this place, I don't need 40. 14 was the amount of years that they were actually born. It's not uncommon to hear that number.
Okay, that's interesting.
Does that make sense to you now?
Yes. And I hear.
I got a spike.
Again, you need to hang out wherever that thing's going off.
Yeah, that was when I heard it when I was like 20 minutes. I think the internet that said partners in the Americas. That's anything. And one of the clearest like big songs I heard was that like that song was like Rock Betty Vampire, and it went and it like changed stations, and I think I heard the phrase "Like it went back, like it
Like it almost like repeated itself.
like it went back, like it was at the big
Good stuff.
What'd you get?
False alarm. False alarm. Sorry.
Were you touching it? Don't touch it.
Got to red for like a solid good second there.
Certain nights I come here and it's doing nothing. And I'm always looking for patterns.
I'm looking for a cold spot. But I gotta have contrast. Let me get back.
I got a spike of 17.4.
17.4. So that kind of goes in line with what you have right now, because you're varying between 15 and 25. And right in between, he has a 17.4. We're using the same unit of measurement. So I have them set up that way on purpose. That's going to be a really cool device once I get all the logistics down. I can't wait to use it.
22.4 spike.
Another one. Yeah, you might want to just turn off the REM pod just because they're giving us too many false positives, and just use it as a millimeter. Yeah, click the white button in the back. That'll make it stop. There you go. Because it's just going to be distracting for everybody. Like, ooh, we got something going on.
It's nothing.
And then he's...
It's a false alarm. Sorry.
No, you're fine, dude. You're fine. That's why you guys keep me around. So I can adjust how we need to.
No, it's good. Look, that was really not. That was a bad idea. Oh, it's this way. Tell me why it's this way.
Let's go back this way.
Eliza, what destroyed your
For a second.
That's what I figured. You guys are all the kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, this is not an always in the moment type of catch. So when you do the video, it's usually where the motion is, this kind of stuff comes out. Yeah, I do have quite a few. Not specifically from that camera. And so, yeah, this is way more effective because obviously it's going to be millions of pictures versus hundreds. So that again, very much video, not checking anything else that's your thing, and I can use the shot from that one to
Hey, walk straight out from that point. I think it's just a cover. Okay. Yeah. It's electrical cover. You're going to get an AMS around that. J-box.
Because then it would be, so what it would be recording would be like the light going onto a thing, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Something that you didn't see happen.
Okay.
So again, I have.
I mean, if you get a spike, I'll look around for you. Look around you to see if it's near you.
Is one better than the other, you think?
Quick spike.
Green stuff, I get all kinds of.
Oh, no. Oh, hi.
I get bugs that'll fly through it. Those are easy to spot because it just looks like one green light. Quick.
Yeah.
I'm looking
Tell Nick.
Okay. Take the full phrase alone at the end.
Yeah.
There. I like that. Okay. What else do we need?
Anything here.
I've got pie at the end.
What is yours?
A reader of some kind.
It's the EMF field.
Yeah, mine too.
So it's got lights and LEDs. It's got digital display on it. So it's just
Mine, right in the middle is where it freaks out.
don't think I've had the word ashes give me that clue before. It's normally direct. It's like the word fire. But again, it's definitely a clue. So it definitely goes into the word fire. So far, I'm really excited about giants.
Empty besides those initial spikes.
Okay.
Also going to catch. She has like the most active ones. So again, I just want to make sure she has
So
like
1 point.
yeah. Did she give me some good phrases?
No, I'm not
Not to mention the
singing
spikes.
in
Bryson, do you
any
have any
cold
other
spots.
spikes for me?
No, it's been kind of like empty since those
So it
first
just
few.
kind of died down, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe that's her cue that I need to wrap it up. Oh yeah. That's not uncommon for the space. And again, I've been here on ice. I get nothing. What else you got? Anything?
Nothing except no clear phrases. The like closest thing to a phrase sounded like couldn't pass, but it wasn't very clear.
Okay.
Either way.
Can I have a spirit box?
Yeah.
This is just kind of.
Yeah, I'll get you.
I don't wanna be rude,
And actually,
but-
I'll probably pass that one. No, I'll take it and get you a spirit box. But I do want to take us back to the back so I can get us some answers. We got a lot going on here. I want to get you guys all caught up. So let's go back to the back. We can go ahead and cut the videos. Michael Mitch has already stopped, I believe. So just hit that red square.
Got it. Mr. Cobble.
Let's go ahead and use yours. This is considered a quiet space. So we're next to the hotel. Any words or names that you guys may have heard along the way?
Yeah, I had Ed, Joe, and the word great.
I heard many words, but the only name I think I heard was Anna.
Wow, that's quite a few, guys. That's more than normal. I want to say that Edward is definitely relevant. And Anna, I think there's a Hannah. And I'm going to tell you guys what I'm talking about here. So I'm gonna take
It was a very clear Anna. There wasn't like
no agent.
ambiguity in the
Alright, so
beginning.
welcome to Lodge Alley. That last crosswalk that we just crossed over, that was where the original Charlestown. I'm sorry, did you have any names?
There weren't any names, but there were two very clear full phrases, and I thought it was interesting that they both happened.
Okay.
Because one was according to the signs, and one was get all the details. But to be fair, I was trying to remember H.G. Wells is a scientist and author, and I was actively trying to think of the name of any of the stories.
Okay.
So,
Fair enough.
so blowing on my mistake.
Got it.
Maybe you could go off on that.
I did read
possibly.
Buddy, so just forget. Keep that running. So, all right. So I'm going to write down. Just remember Ed, Joe, and Anna for sure. And then you said great. Again,
Great.
little vague. City. You're standing on one of the very first streets we ever had. So obviously these are original cobblestones. And the reason I asked you guys for names is because I have the full list of residents of every person that's ever lived down here. The names I normally get are Benjamin and John. Now they sound like very common names, but that list, there's only like 4 to 6 people that lived here at one time. So Benjamin and John are 2 out of 5 names of people that lived here in 1801. Do I have any other significant thing that happened to Benjamin and John? I don't. I just get the same names every 6 to 7 weeks. We're on week 3 to 4 of that loop. I didn't know if the moon phase tonight was going to hopefully assist with that. I've been watching all of that just to make sure. But what you're standing on, here's where things get interesting and a little bit more sciencey. So that's why I'm kind of chuckling at your phrase. You're standing on Belgian blocks. These are made straight from granite. Now, if you guys have watched the paranormal shows or you're enthusiasts, you've heard the term limestone before. Limestone comes straight from the earth, as does granite. Things like that actually hang on to the consciousness of memories if they're in the same space long enough, replaying them over and over and over again. These bricks were laid in 1735. pretty sure they've been here long enough to hold on to a few memories. So it's called the stone tape theory. So again, just kind of take that in consideration. I don't find it ironic that it's the same names over and over and over again for the past 3 years. So I just put that stone tape theory kind of clue together like 6 months ago when I was talking to my podcast co-host about it, and she's just like, I think that's part of your stone tape theory you've been looking into, because that's when I dove into the bricks a little bit further. Before people lived here, the Freemasons had a Masonic lodge here, hence the name Lodge Alley. We do get things wrapped around the Freemasons, like the word Freemason, Mason, brick, and I've even had the term Illuminati show up here 4 or 5 times last year alone. So again, I know I have to chuckle every time I hear it, because first off, why is somebody saying the word Illuminati on a radio station? And really, I gotta dive into conspiracy theories at this point. Like, don't I dive into enough research? So take that for what it is. They did do an archaeological dig of where we're standing. They found that the residents, like their clothing and tools and silverware and stuff, and they were able to classify these people as lower class. It makes sense. Our geography says that the wall, even though it went up Cumberland, was also across the street on East Bay. The smell of low tide would be coming through here. The rich of Charleston are not going to put up with that. So if you've been down to the Battery, where the houses are skinny in the front and they go long back, that's first off so they can make a piazza, the front porch with the door on it, so that the smell of low tide won't go through. They'll open up the second story window and it'll cool off the house with the cool breeze from the water. Heat rises, cool air drops. So it kind of helps air condition the homes. The other reason why they're skinny is because you were taxed based on how much street you took. So if you're skinnier in the front, less taxes. The Pinckney Mansion sat broad. They didn't care. They're outside the city walls. They're obviously got money, right? They're all politicians, and Eliza's got her indigo cash. So it was bragging rights. So again, I like to point out the differences once we're in this space because it makes a whole lot more sense. But I do want, as far as the names you guys gave me, I want to say like they are going to be mixed in there. Could it be coincidental? It's a possibility. But again, until I have something a little bit more specific, I really don't have anything against those names. But because you gave them to me, you will get the link back to the full list of residents, so that way you can see it for yourselves. And if you guys hear Benjamin or John, let me know, because those are the 2 common names I normally get. Here's what's going to happen from here. I told you it's kind of a brief stop. It's not a place where we actually ask questions, and it's basically waiting for something to happen. This is just stirring things up. We are going to go through the rest of this alley. As we exit, we're going to be cutting through a neighborhood. Really, I'm taking you on the edge of where we're about to go. I'm going to take you to another alley, but I can't take you through it like what we're doing here. I've been booted out. You guys have to remember, you guys have the blinky lights and noisemakers. I will tell you the story of how I got booted out of there once we get there. It makes more sense again once we're there. Not to mention, it's almost like karma telling me I had to get kicked out of that place, so it'll make sense. But that alley is about a duel. So again, when you're in Charleston, everybody has to hear the dueling story. After that, we're kind of deep diving to see like what the spirit boxes are telling me of like what stories to tell next. If nothing pops up that's relevant, because that space is like covered in like 15 stories. Most of them are true, so I kind of know which ones are and which ones aren't. If nothing comes up, I'll tell you the normal 2 things that I do there, and then we're going to deep dive into a female pirate, like what we did over at the Pinckney Mansion site. If you're into pirates, this is the craziest freaking pirate story I've ever heard of. And I've read a lot about pirates, and I don't even like pirates. I'm a vampire guy. So again, yes.
That's interesting because I feel like it's not like I feel like the dichotomy isn't like vampires and pirates. It's pirates and cowboys, and vampires and devils.
Well, it is, and I would love to have a vampire story to tell you, but there's no vampires in Charleston. There's pirates in Charleston. So it's just one of those things.
I like vampires, but I'm a big fan of pirates too.
I guess I have a personal vendetta against pirates. It's an ex-wife thing. We'll just get into that.
Yeah.
Alright, we can kill the lasers for now. As we exit, definitely turn off your videos. We don't film in your residential areas.
A religious one, I think. Like, he is born, presumably a religious thing. And then I heard the number all in a row, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3.
So lots of religious terms between both you and Bryson, and those numbers, like I got nothing on any of those. I think that's crazy.
Well, I don't think I got anything that's very religious. I got consensus, paranormal, publicly, and ankle. Yeah, ankle. That's just 1013. I think that's the newest one.
Okay. Interesting.
And I heard something about a challenge.
we're going to talk about duels.
That's why I brought it up.
So, this place used to be called Dueler's Alley. So I will do my best to stay out of the way of the camera so that way you guys can actually get some footage, you know, of the alley itself. So if you guys see me moving around, it's just so I'm getting out of the way of the cameras. But we all tell the story of one specific duel because we can actually prove it. It actually happened. And of course, these were real people. You got something going on?
I'm sure you're running.
Don't worry about the timer.
Oh.
Worry about the orange circle or the square. It should be a square when you're recording.
It's square.
Okay, perfect. We'll record. So, there's a doctor that moves down here from Rhode Island. Sorry, this seems like a much smaller group compared to what I've been dealing with the past few weeks, so this is kind of nice. But the doctor moves down here from Rhode Island. His name is Joseph Brown Ladd. He moves here because his fiancée, Amanda, just inherited a bunch of money from her dead parents. She has an attorney handling all of that money for her. The attorney thinks the doctor's just after her cash. He tells her to get rid of the doctor. So, Dr. Ladd moves to Charleston to prove that he's not just after her own money, and he's going to start his practice down here. The coachman that brought him into town set him up to be robbed and killed, so it wasn't a very good start to his stay in Charleston. Somebody walking by with the name of Ralph Isaacs. I'm going to stop on Ralph for a second because you guys are ghost hunting, not just listening to the stories. Initials mean something when we're ghost hunting. Ralph has the same initials as where the doctor came from, Rhode Island, Ralph Isaacs. So R.I. will show up here, but I do need that secondary clue so I know who it belongs to. But anyway, Ralph says, man, you don't want to go in there. You don't want to stay here. This guy's got a gunman inside. He's going to try to kill you. So he's like, I got some friends at 59 Church Street. They can rent you a room. So he's good with that. And he takes him up on the offer. He's now living at 59 Church Street. 59 will show up here quite often, just so you guys know. But anyway, the two become friends, and the doctor's practice starts to take off. He's making his own money. Amanda's moving down soon, so he becomes known as the whistling doctor, right? He whistles all the time. That's his thing. I know, it's cheesy, but every haunted city has a whistler. Ours is a doctor. But anyway, so him and Ralph go see plays together, but the doctor makes more money, so he gets better seats. They can't sit next to each other. So they talk about these plays on the way home. One night they go see William III from Shakespeare. They're discussing the new actress that was in town. The doctor thought she was great. Ralph, not so much. It gets a little heated, and then it gets ugly when Ralph starts insulting the doctor's fiancée back home in Rhode Island. And they obviously go their separate ways. Ralph is from here. He goes to the newspaper and puts an ad in the newspaper telling the whole city of Charleston what he thinks of the doctor. The doctor sees the ad and rebuttals with, let's go to Dueler's Alley. We're going to settle this. So they come down, they take their 20 paces, they turn, the doctor points his gun in the air, and he shoots. He did not want to kill his friend. And by the way, dueling, that's often what happened. You just had the courage of bravery to show up to your fight. Ralph, however, has his one shot. Sorry, Michael. He puts it in the kneecap, not his ankle. That's why I was kind of like, oh, he got ankle. But he puts it in the kneecap on the doctor. So the doctor didn't die either. He's picked up by his friends and carried back home to 59 Church Street, where he dies 10 days later after refusing medical treatment. I want you to remember, he's a doctor. He probably tried to heal himself by bleeding it out.
Ugh.
So, they say as you walk through here, obviously they say you can hear the whistles from the doctor. I do have evidence of things that I can't prove of what's going on. If you do happen to walk down there and turn on your voice recorders and listen to it later, keep in mind, all of us locals, we know the story. If you're walking up and down Cumberland or Queen Street on the other side, you're gonna throw a whistle down the alley. That's just what we do here. It throws everybody off. I do it every single night on my way back to my garage. If my daughter's on the tour, we race to see who's gonna throw the whistle first. So here's why I got booted out. And it's very interesting. It may even entice you to go down, on your own. So at the end of this is residential. The bricks at the other end on the Queen Street side are older because the alley didn't always come all the way through to Cumberland Street. Those bricks are sun-dried from slave children. We do have a handprint and several finger swipes in those bricks towards the end. My people always wanted to put an Emf meter near it or a spirit box. I treat a brick that was turned by a slave kid the exact same way I would a cemetery. That poor kid is not staring at that brick in the afterlife. He's not there. I used to tell my people, we got to move quickly because it's outside somebody's dining room window. We got caught one night. That night was November 26th, 2020. I remember that day because the next day was Thanksgiving, 27th. So I didn't tour. The next morning after that, I got a phone call from the tourism office. So I had to reroute my tour quickly. I told my team on the night of the 28th, remember, that's Black Friday. I'm booked. So I'm telling them, I gotta wing it. I'll tell you what I know about the pirates. We'll see what happens. I don't believe the story at this point. Now, somebody on a spirit box, here's a number 300, and we get Anne's name that came up that night. I'm like, I have no idea what 300 means. So I go home and do all my research for you guys. The number 300, we were there on November 28th, 2020. Anne Bonny's trial was November 28th, 1720. We were there on the exact 300-year anniversary of her trial. And we had the number 300 show up on that day. And nobody knew what the heck it meant in real time. So, take that for what it's worth, but it was like karma telling me I better get the hell out of this alley so I can move on and tell everybody about pirates, and I've been studying pirates ever since. So, unfortunately. I find them very interesting, I'll give you that, but I have read a lot of books about pirates. Any other terms before we move on?
I heard trapped pretty clearly.
Trapped showed up last night around this area. That's interesting. And actually came out of that device.
No, haven't heard of it.
All right, any other words?
People, tool, selected, and agree.
Yeah, definitely none of those are relevant, especially the agreement. There's no agreement in a duel. All right, let's go learn some myths and legends.
I just heard playing games.
Okay.
Arrow.
Wall across this courtyard. That's the wall to Philadelphia Alley that we just spoke of. So there is a gate in the middle of that wall. In the event there was a loser to the duel, meaning a dead guy, this was a shortcut to get over to the cemetery because remember, the alley didn't go all the way through. Otherwise, they'd have to go all the way down to Queen Street and come around with a dead body. I'm sure that would be pretty heavy. So I call that the death gate, and yes, it does have a wrought iron gate on it. You just can't see it from here. But I do like to point that out. So let's have a seat. We're going to chill here for just a few minutes, kind of cover a few things before we dive into this female pirate. So go ahead and have a seat on the bench along the wall. That's why I picked this specific area, because it's short. The number 7, as we talked about earlier, nothing on it. February of 59, and nothing matches up to anything in my head as far as the stories around here. Because I mean, again, I'm racking my brain. Let's give me numbers to see what it attaches to. So, last place we're going to be visiting. So that way HG can actually get some sleep. So, we're going to be discussing first this little building in the front of this apartment building. That's the building with the crosses on it. First off, those are not crosses. Those are earthquake bolts. Just behind earthquake bolts is their turnbuckles. Basically, if we have another earthquake like what we did in 1886, like what I referred to at the beginning of the tour, you can tighten them slowly and it'll straighten the building back up. It's a great idea, it just doesn't work. The reason I bring
I was like, really?
Yeah. Who here's, don't we have a California group here?
Yeah, right there.
Yeah.
Trust me, it would not work.
Yeah, I know. I talked to a lot of Californians. I'm like, like the first time I had Californians, I'm like, does that work? They're like, oh no. I'm like, so anyway, there's much better technology for earthquakes now. Yeah.
Rollers and gigantic, what do you have in your car? You know,
Hydraulics.
yeah, hydraulics.
So I talked to a lot of you. So I bring these up because these are the first set of earthquake bolts that Charleston put in, because this is the oldest government building in South Carolina. This is the Gunpowder Magazine. So yeah, it held gunpowder for 7 different wars. There's that number again, 7. But again, we weren't close enough yet. The Civil War was its last servant, just so you know. This one has never been attacked. And I'm going to point out that I told you about the Charlestown Walls earlier. The road over here where the garage is, that's where the wall existed. It went up past the powder magazine and started going south towards the battery. It's tucked into the corners on purpose. The reason being is it's 3 blocks away from the water. If it gets attacked from Revolutionary warships or pirate ships, those cannonballs are going to have a hard time going through those 32-inch thick walls and blowing up the gunpowder. But we're going to pretend that it's going to go all the way through, and the gunpowder blows up and blows the roof off the place, but there's sand underneath those shingles. The sand is supposed to go up with the explosion and fall to put out the fire of the gunpowder. Another great idea that doesn't work. We had another powder magazine closer to the battery. You know, our geography is much closer to the water. It did penetrate, sand up, building burned down, no longer exists. So, what do you got?
Isn't there like an incredibly haunted house just on the other side of that?
Kind of. And it's a misnomer, and I'll discuss that after I get through this whole pirate thing.
Right.
We are here because this building is in the same time frame as Anne Bonny when she lived here. It's kind of like it's a familiar, like you're using a toy to attract a child ghost. We're taking young Anne back in Ireland when she was like 7 to 9 years old. They say she killed one of her servants with a knife to the belly. Yeah, I was joking. So, she's kind of a badass chick. I put that in the back of your brain for the rest of the story. Now, let's get back to Charleston. We're going to fast forward to 1713. That's when this building is finished. 1715, pirates are coming through town. Anne is stoked. She wants her freedom. She falls in love pretty quickly. This guy's name is James Bonny. Dad doesn't approve because he's a filthy pirate. I wouldn't approve either, just saying. They run away to Jamaica. They get married. Anne Cormac becomes Anne Bonny, your most famous female pirate of the Golden Age. Now, when I get down there, this is not the swashbuckling, rum-drinking Captain Jack Sparrow guy that she wanted, right? So this is a privateer. He's a spy for the British, a coward in her eyes. So she falls in love again. Guy number 2. I'm going to keep track for you guys. Guy number 2 turns out to be John Rackham, a.k.a. Calico Jack. We're going to call him Jack for the rest of the story. It's much easier to remember. Jack is called Calico Jack because he wears the jackets of the men he kills. So he's a very young, filthy. So I told you guys at the beginning of the tour that people have passed out. This is one of those instances where I have a story that actually ties into the pirate story. Back in September, I brought my group back here, just like you guys are standing, and the young man next to me goes white as a ghost, yes, pun intended, and he starts to pass out. I pick him up by his armpit, and I carry him over to that wall where he can sit down, and I send his boyfriend across the street to the vending machines to go get him a bottle of water. He brings it back, he's feeling better. I tell the story. I send everybody out with their toys, and they stop me. Nick, we gotta tell you something. What's going on? We are 2 transgender males. 2 females dressed as men on my tour. One of them passes out when we enter the space. Just like Ann and Mary. Take it for what it's worth. Again, I cannot explain these things. They are uncanny, and they are too crazy to make up. So again, take it for what it is worth. I again, can't make this stuff up when it happens. And they were totally fine with it. They actually felt like they were part of the story at that point. So again, it was almost like a good thing for them. Like they were very pleased. They were okay with me retelling their tale as long as I didn't use their names. All right,
What
now.
were their names?
Actually, I only remember the one because it was a cool name. But anyway, we're going to end. I normally end over there by that wall because there's a ledge over there for me to set my bag down. But we're going to see what's going on here. Again, this is hit or miss. You guys tell me what you're hearing. If I don't see a whole lot of clues going on, we'll end it. We'll collect devices. You ask a million questions, and we'll get you guys home so HG can take a nap.
There you go.
And there's not like any questions we shouldn't ask here, like there were with the other one.
So the name of Calico Jack's ship or Anne Bonny's parents. Those are things I can prove. Everything else is fair game.
No, I asked if there was anything like we shouldn't ask. That was like,
Nah.
okay.
She's a pirate. She don't care.
Okay.
She's pretty loosey-goosey. Yeah, I appreciate that, though. Good call.
Calico Jack, what is the name of your ship?
What is the name of your ship?
Come on, sir, tell us the name of your ship. Okay, it's not working. Bonnie, what are your parents' names?
It's a real famous movie about a Bonnie and Clyde. Bonnie, tell us about yourself.
Calico Jack, what's the name of your ship? Jack ship.
I'm gonna go around the front.
I just made out a clear sentence. Yes, I said pay.
Yes, I said pay.
As in, like,
P-A-Y.
pay for your actions or something. I'll tell.
I'm gonna be out front.
What was the name of your husband's pirate ship?
I have access to that twice. It was a pretty discerning, almost like scolding of pirates before they were, on trial for piracy. So plundering around, stealing stuff.
No responses when asking about parents' names or
Okay.
ship's name.
Yet.
Yeah.
There's another group that was around front. I think
Yeah,
that's them.
I just ask that you stay out of their way, just because, again, they like to harass you guys a little bit.
Must be them.
You can see how large these groups can get.
They are huge.
Yeah, we're allowed to go to 20. I just won't do it.
That's a lot. Devices.
Well, I remembered everybody's name here tonight. I can't do that with 20 people. It's a much more personal experience when you guys
You can
actually
remember it.
see me working.
Yeah. I'm gonna go around this way. If there's anybody there, I'll go up front.
Are you seeing anything new?
No, it's hard to really spot in a thermal image.
Alright, let's head back to the back. I don't like to hang around these people's cars. They're going to go home. They're probably drunk somewhere right now.
Well, they better not be trying to go home. They can go home.
Call
They can go home. They're going to call an Uber again.
You want to call an Uber or get a rickshaw?
Yeah, it's an Uber.
One of the two.
Okay, Uber.
It's too unsafe to walk, and I'm too tired.
Yeah.
What we have got going on here is going on with the list. We do have the name Lucas, which remember is Eliza's maiden name. We also have the word May about 4 or 5 terms before that. To show you what Calico Jack looked like with his very young, his dapper jackets. It's one of the few photos we actually have of him. There he is. So, obviously, named after the jackets that he
She
wore.
don't like him. She don't like
Yeah,
a picture of him.
She went away.
It's funny because this was the beau. Like, this wasn't a husband.
Oh,
Remember,
yeah,
he
this
was.
was
This was Calico Jack.
Yeah.
So this is the Mister, so to speak.
The jet-
So
We can take the earbuds, right?
yeah. Just make sure you turn your volume down before you pull them out. So the name of Calico Jack's ship was the Kingston. So I was looking for the word King because Kingston is obviously not going to pop up through a spirit box. The name of Anne Bonny's parents, William Cormack and Mary Brennan. So again, that's a secondary Mary because remember the first Mary was the lover / friend.
Yeah.
You guys weren't expecting another Mary, so that's one of the reasons why I throw that question at you. Bryson was actually asking about the other. There's a alleged haunted house on the other side of the Powder Magazine. The